All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Clark from the Center for Weight Loss Success. Today on Losing Weight USA, going to talk a little bit about preventing weight regain after weight loss. And so think about it. Weight loss is hard, no doubt about that. But weight maintenance can actually be a harder thing. So we'll kind of talk about some basics with that. All right, welcome to Losing Weight USA, real-time answers to your weight loss questions, some of the latest updates, some of the latest research, a little bit of expert advice, gives you direct access not only to me, but you should be receiving the health tips and recipes via the membership portal. And I do encourage you to get into the membership site and keep adding more and more things in there, menus, recipes, but it's all the educational materials from behavior modification classes to all these live webinars that are recorded, and then all the videos that go along with each of the chapters in Weight Management University for Weight Loss Surgery. All right, so each one of these webinars will last about 30 minutes or so. If you have questions, type them in during the presentation into the chat box. We'll get to them at the end. If you think of things once we're all done, just give us a yell here at the Center for Weight Loss Success. The email is success@cfwls.com. Phone number 757-873-1880. All right, so now again, today we are talking about how to prevent weight regain. Once you've lost weight, preventing weight regain. All right, let me flip slides over here. All right, so just a little before we get into the preventing weight regain, let's just get a quick overview of the weight loss. So basics of weight loss is, weight loss is hard. There's no doubt about it. It doesn't matter whether you had surgery, didn't have surgery. Weight loss is hard. You have to address the behavior component of it, which is why do we do what we do, the activity exercise component, and then obviously the eating component is probably one of the biggest things too. But if you ignore any parts of those, it doesn't work well. So that multi-discipline approach is always the best thing. I do like to stress preserving lean body mass, which typically that concept is getting the protein in as well as exercise, especially doing some weight training. Preserve lean body mass, you're going to keep your metabolism as high as possible. But if you ignore any one of these concepts, any one component of the the basics there, then you're set up for failure. All right, so the eating component, okay, good protein sources, meat, seafood, cheese, and egg are the best protein sources from food. Should be fairly low carb, lots of vegetable salad stuff. Everybody has a carbohydrate tipping point. I talk about that all the time. The activity exercise component, yep, everyone should be staying as active as possible. Encourage formal exercise. Do some weight training. Okay? Everybody ought to do some weight training. And the behavior component. The behavior is the hows, the whys of eating. Why do we do what we do? And then how do we change what we do? Easier said than done. We talked some of that last week. We talked about propinquity, I think is a week or so ago. As developing those strategies to combat your own personal eating problems. And everyone's a little bit different, but they have to be addressed. So, okay, you've gone through that, you've lost the weight. So again, losing weight is hard. Keeping it off is actually harder. And part of it is because it's a forever thing. Now, typically during a weight loss plan, there's a limit to it. Okay, whether it be a time limit, a number limit, how many pounds, but basically there's a limit to it. Weight maintenance is a forever thing. It's just out there, it's over, you're looking at it every day. Forever thing. And there's no longer any positive reinforcement. I mean, typically once you've lost the weight, during weight loss, people are often coming, hey, you're looking great. How much are you trying to lose? What are you doing? They want to know about it. You're looking down at the scale hopefully each day, and you're seeing numbers come down, that positive reinforcement, and seeing the lower numbers. Weight maintenance, all that goes away. Everyone just anticipates you'll keep the weight off. They may actually be waiting for you to struggle. The scale is going to stay the same, hopefully staying the same. So we don't get that positive reinforcement that we do during the weight loss. And so sometimes that has to come then from within. So what then are the strategies? What are the strategies that can help you during weight maintenance? And they can also help with weight loss, but especially during weight maintenance. So there have been lots of things that have been researched as far as kind of what could potentially help. And a lot of things that we thought would really be very helpful don't actually help very much. So starting out, the first thing is, what have been unsuccessful research strategies? Now, having said unsuccessful research strategies, that doesn't mean these strategies can't potentially help certain individuals. When you take groups of individuals, basically the studies have done is groups of individuals, we see that overall, it doesn't work that well. So what things don't really work that we find that doesn't work well? Well, relapse prevention training, meaning that just learning about relapse, it doesn't really tend to help them. Peer group meetings, it's kind of like sitting down with some of your peers that have gone through weight loss. It actually does not help much. Telephone prompts by non-therapists, meaning that it's not actually sitting down with a dietitian and strategizing, or not sitting down with a behaviorist that's actually strategizing. So telephone prompts just by someone doesn't work that well. Supervised group exercise. Okay, does that, with the group does that actually prevent weight regain? And the answer is no, it doesn't actually work very well. Now, that doesn't mean that for any one person it can't work well. So what this really does tell me is that there isn't a one thing that's going to be the answer. And if I were to say there's going to be kind of one thing, it's provide accountability, which typically ends up being multiple things to help provide accountability. And so you want to be accountable, whether it be to yourself, which is, we all should be accountable to ourselves, but is it accountable to kind of a trainer that you work with, a group that has gone through a similar thing is like accountable to yourself, talk about it, a family member that's kind of, so you want to be accountable, someone that's going to actually kind of hopefully help bring you back in line when we stray, because we all stray. All right, so some of those are success or unsuccessful. What are the successful research strategies? One of the most successful thing is actually extending treatment, meaning that if you have been going somewhere to kind of work on your weight loss and you're seeing someone and you're kind of done with your plan, extend the treatment. May not need to be nearly as often. So if you're seeing something once a month, could it go out 2, 3, 4 months? Yes, is the answer. But for each individual, you're going to have to modify that. And so what works best for that person? But just extending the treatment works better. Providing kind of multi-component programs, meaning that we work on all different sides of it. So the behavior side, work on the exercise, activity side, not just the dietary side, the whole thing. And that's, we stress that all the time. Center for Weight Loss Success is like it's a multi-component, multifaceted plan. Ongoing professional contacts. So this is the dietitian. This is the behaviorist, the psychologist, can help you kind of strategize with how to figure out what to do about the problem areas. And everybody has it. Emphasizing physical activity. Exercise is one of the greatest things for weight maintenance. One of the most common reasons that I'll have sit down and discuss this with people. They'll come in and say, gee, my weight started going up. I stopped exercising, or I'm not exercising like I was. Exercise typically is a huge health benefit. Exercise isn't that very great for actual weight loss, but it's actually wonderful for weight maintenance. Two different things. Another thing that works really well is emphasizing portion control. Okay, I'd like to add to that, emphasizing meal timing. It's like, okay, there are eating times, not eating times. But when you're eating, during those eating times, it's like portion control. Portions in the US typically are just way out of control. Okay? So working on portion control, small portions, healthy portions. Continuing the use of meal replacements. It actually works very well. And some people use them intermittently. Some people use them, gee, I use them for breakfast, my routine breakfast, or I use them sometimes during the day. But routine utilizing of meal replacements tends to actually help tremendously with keeping weight off once you've lost the weight. Pharmacotherapy, what I mean by that is weight loss medications. Weight loss medications can actually be a wonderful adjunct to maintenance. They don't own it. Typically, if you think about it, for most weight loss medications, and I'm guilty of prescribing these same type of weight loss medications are typically used during weight loss. But actually, they work wonderfully for weight maintenance. You just have to change your mindset there. It actually works very well for weight maintenance. It just has to be monitored typically. And then continued counseling, behavioral counseling, internet, face-to-face, phone counseling, okay, but the professional counseling, not what I talked about with my friend Jamie or my cousin Louise. Okay? That typically doesn't work so well. Now, there tends to be lots of individual factors, so referred to as patient factors, that actually can be very helpful. So we talked about some strategies, but what are just the patient factors for keeping weight off? So certain patient factors tend to be more important than other ones. So patient factors of keeping weight off is one, you actually reached your goal. Achieving that self-determined goals. And that goes back to the whole thing of SMART goals. Okay? Having SMART goals. Okay, that mnemonic, kind of realistic goals there. But achieving that goal, typically once you've achieved it, if you've done it, it tends to be it helps a lot with keeping the weight off. So I've reached my goal, I want to stay there. More initial weight loss, which kind of goes against our normal thinking. How many times do I hear someone come and say, gee, I didn't gain the weight overnight. That's very true. It took years and years and years. So why should I want to lose it really fast? Okay, well, here's one of the main reasons why, is that typically the faster you lose the weight in that initial weight loss plan, the more likely you actually are to keep the weight off. I know that doesn't inherently seem to make sense. It's like, oh, if I lose it slowly. I have patients come in after surgery going, well, I actually want to lose it for a slower weight loss, go for a longer period of time. Well, the likelihood of that happening is actually fairly small. So initially, kind of grab the bull by the horns, go for it. The more weight you lose initially, better off long-term you are. All right, next is just having a physically active lifestyle. Okay, exercise is included in that, but I'm just talking about a physically active lifestyle. I get outside and I do things, or we get inside and I do things, whether it be a walking program, whether it be not formal exercise, but just a physically active lifestyle. I get out, I'm taking care of the lawn, I plant things outside, or whatever it is, kind of doing things kind of all the time. Physically active, that's my lifestyle. Next one is, and I referred to this earlier, is mealtime, which is basically a regular meal rhythm. Now, regular doesn't mean there's a right and wrong time to actually eat. Oh, I got to eat at this time, this time, this time. But actually, there should be a regular meal rhythm. And there also should be a plan for what happens when I get thrown a curveball. Meaning that, okay, I was planning on having my meal now. It didn't work out that way for whatever reason, whether there's an emergency that came up, work problem, whatever it is. But if we routinely have that regular meal rhythm, it works nicer. And this is kind of goes back to how many times do I say that timing matters? Meal timing matters. And the part of meal timing that really matters is that not eating time. That not eating time is so important, and really push the water during that not eating time. You need to have extended not eating times so that we have lower insulin levels, which we're going to talk a little bit about at the end here. Okay. Other patient factors is eating breakfast. Is that for a lot of people that have gone through weight loss, eating breakfast is very important. Now, there's some, there are some things, and I used to harp on eating breakfast all the time. I was a huge fan of that, and I've kind of drifted away from that. And some of it is because I absolutely know intermittent fasting works. And part of intermittent fasting may be, part intermittent fast is extending the not eating time. And extending it through breakfast sometimes actually can work very nicely for certain individuals. It is playing with that and figuring it out. So I used to be a huge proponent is get up, have breakfast, and nice good protein start for your day, which is a good plan. But also that's not always for everyone. Some people do better skipping breakfast. Okay. Patient factors also. Counting carbohydrate, watching your carbohydrate, watching the fat, basically watching the calorie input, which we need to, as well as watching the carbohydrate input, which they're closely related, but not necessarily equal, because calories also come from the protein, also comes from the fat we eat. But most of my patients tend to be very sensitive to carbohydrates. Other patient factors, fewer snacks. This gets into that eating times, not eating times. If there are snacks in between, that means you have not extended the not eating time. Subsequently, every time we have a snack, every time we eat anything, your insulin levels go up. And controlling insulin is absolutely key. That doesn't mean that some people don't do better with having a snack. They actually do better with that. But again, it's kind of figuring that out and figure out what's working. Not just, I feel better when I have a snack, maybe gaining weight too. It's like, okay, I do better when I have a snack. All right. But fewer snacks is actually probably a good plan. I alluded to this next one earlier. You have that flexible control over eating. Regular meal planning is always a good idea. But the flexible control means that, okay, if it didn't work out, this is what I'll do. Okay, as opposed to sometimes if it didn't work out, I'm just throwing it away. Okay. That flexible control. Okay, it's we'd like to eat at this time. Hey, it didn't work out that way. This is what I'm doing. Or my schedule change, whatever. Regular self-monitoring. The best self-monitoring is stepping on the scale. And I encourage people to weigh yourself daily. It's the best monitor we have. It is the best monitor we have. And the reason to weigh yourself daily isn't to just look down and go, oh, good or oh, bad. The reason is to reflect on the previous 24 hours. What about the previous 24 hours could affect the number today? And you're going to figure out those little things that do affect the number, and you can use that then to your advantage. Waiting a week to weigh yourself is typically, it's like you're going to look back on a week and go, okay, what did I do different that week? And you're going to really look at yourself and say, I didn't do anything different. I did everything the same. No, you didn't. Okay, we do different things day to day. Weigh yourself daily. Okay. Good coping strategies is like we're gonna fail. Okay, we're going to mess up. We're going to trip. We're going to more than trip. It's like we're going to have bad times, and it's got a good coping strategies to kind of figure out, okay, get us back in line. Right? Which fits right into then the next is control over cravings. It's like, okay, yeah, I know these things. They tend to be my bugaboo, but I can control that doing this. Now, what about weight regain? Kind of patient factors again that affect weight regain. Okay, you probably literally list them out to me. Okay. The first one is just failure to meet that actual goal, the self-determined weight goal. When we don't reach our goal, we feel like a failure. was like, I wanted to get there. I didn't get there. I kind of throw it away. Attributing weight to medical factors. How many times do people come and say, well, it's my thyroid? Okay, or other factors. Yes, thyroid can influence it. It's a rare person that the thyroid's the reason, okay? But it does influence, a lot of things influence. Our hormones change as we get older. There are lots of little things, and there are things we can do to help offset that too. And we just have to work with that. Next is a sedentary lifestyle, just not staying active. Next is a disinhibited eating, is that I just eat because it's there. Binge eating. Okay, these are all factors that affect weight regain. Emotional eating. These all fit together. And then just having poor coping strategies with life, because life is stressful. From family to work to whatever's going on. We need to cope. We should have good coping strategies. All right, so there are some people that have literally signed up to be in this National Weight Control Registry, and that now has over 10,000 members. But basically are people that have a significant weight loss, and they've kept it off for a very significant period of time. So they've maintained an average weight loss of over 30 pounds for over 5 years. So these are they've done it, and they've kept it off. So the real question is, what is it that they actually do? What is it that they actually do that has actually been helpful? And there's a significant proportion of the people that are part of this National Weight Control Registry that have kept their weight off for over 10 years. Okay. Most of them have lost an average of about 10 BMI points. So they had significant weight loss. So what do they actually do? They monitor themselves. Again, I encourage you to weigh yourself routinely. They exercise. They typically don't skip breakfast. Again, that can be an individual thing. And they also tend to get good quality sleep. They tend to get 7 hours of sleep a night. Okay? This is when you look at the statistics of the people that are successful, lost weight and keeping it off. This is what they do. Monitor themselves, they exercise, they don't skip breakfast, they get at least 7 hours of sleep a night. All right, now I mentioned this earlier, and I've come back to it many, many times in almost all these webinars. Okay, and the key to long-term weight control, and really the key to long-term health control, weight just being part of that, is controlling insulin levels. Insulin's that hormone we can't live without, so having zero is always bad. Okay? But we do want the lowest number possible that controls our blood sugars. And the reason that's so important, because insulin turns on so many problems. One is just weight gain. It turns on fat storage, but it also turns on inflammatory processes, which is important in heart disease, obviously with activity, exercise. So controlling insulin is controlling health. So it's looking at all the ways to control insulin. And I've listed these out. It's basically low calorie, low carb, exercise, quality sleep, controlling stress, and then meal time or intermittent fasting works very well. Notice that only 2 of those have to do with eating. It's low calorie eating, low carb eating. From a calorie perspective, there's always a calorie ceiling. You go above a certain number of calories, doesn't matter if you're eating perfectly. If you go above a certain number of calories, you're going to gain weight. Almost everyone, or pretty much everyone, has a carbohydrate tipping point. Now, for some people, the tipping point's way up really high, and they don't never reach it, and they don't gain weight either. Well, I don't see those patients. Typically, my patient population is very carbohydrate sensitive. The subsequent, then, everyone has a tipping point. At a certain level, they will struggle. And it's really figuring out where's that tipping point. For most of my surgery patients, generally they get in that 70 to 80 gram range. They're struggling. There are a lot of little qualifiers: how hard you exercise, what is the actual carbohydrate you're having. So there are a lot of little things that play with that. But that's almost always the big problem. It's like, count your carbohydrate. We drift, we struggle. I fit right into that myself. I drift, I struggle. Exercise. Exercise is very important. Do it for long term. Incorporates cardio as well as weight training, as well as stretching, as well as balance control. These things all get affected as we get older. Quality sleep. Okay, poor quality sleep generally leads to higher cortisol levels. Cortisol is a chronic stress hormone. Cortisol by itself increases insulin levels. Stress, same type of thing. So stress control. Stress isn't going away. So it's like, oh, just get rid of stress. It's like, well, no, stress isn't going away. It's just that we have to control stress. How do we react to it? What are we going to do to help break that stress? So stress control is very important. Stress goes up higher, or uncontrolled stress, cortisol levels are higher, insulin levels go up. Insulin turns on fat storage. And then finally, meal timing or intermittent fast. Intermittent fasting is basically just meal timing. Okay? It's extending the not eating time. But we need to have eating times and not eating times. So even if you're not, quote, fasting, there still needs to be, here's my eating time, no, I'm not eating time. The majority of any 24-hour day should be not eating. Should only be a very short period of time we're actually eating, whether it be 2 or 3 meals a day. If you're fasting, then okay, that's extending the non-eating time. It's during our not eating times when we have our lowest insulin levels. If we can keep those insulin levels low as possible, best chance of controlling health, controlling weight. So meal timing, very, very important. All right, so a few tips just to wind this all down. Continuing counseling sessions is always a good idea. It helps provide accountability. Whether you do that with a dietitian, nutritionist, behaviorist, your personal trainer, whatever it is, continuing counseling sessions is very important. Self-monitoring, I stress this, we need to be accountable to ourselves. The best way to do this is, one, weigh yourself, but also write things down. A journal. It goes back to that journal. That usually comes up in most of these webinars too. And I encourage people to journal both their activity as well as their food intake. Whether it be getting that 10,000 steps, stay an active lifestyle, and weigh yourself routinely. Journal it, write it down. Okay. Notice I crossed out don't skip breakfast. Now, for many people, it is very important. Get that breakfast. But for a lot of people too, not everyone, is that they actually do better skipping breakfast. And so I used to harp on breakfast all the time. I do not so much anymore. It really is an individual thing. Get your rest, control stress, exercise, and then finally, intermittent fasting works. There's actually not a way for it not to work, but it does work. We just need to be diligent and practice it. Anything we practice, we get better at. All right, so in conclusion, weight loss is hard. There's no doubt about that. Weight maintenance, though, is actually even harder. Obesity itself, overweight, is a very complex chronic problem. But it can be managed, and it can be managed effectively through some intensive programs, but also continuing ongoing care throughout your lifetime. It's not saying, well, I did it, well, I'm done. It's like, no, this is something we work on forever. It's what we do at Center for Weight Loss Success. We're here to help. The educational thing, which I'm going to stress again, get into the membership site. All right, if you've had surgery and you're struggling some, we certainly do have a book that we put together. I put it together with Dr. Dawn Reese, who's a psychologist as well. Oh, and this was back 8 years ago or so. But Back on Track After Weight Loss Surgery, get it through Amazon. Questions? Don't see any questions sitting out there. If you have questions, just pick up the phone, send an email, send a text. We're still readily available. We don't have a physical space at this time. The store's still up there, but we always can be available. Contact should be easy to get hold of us. So you can certainly stop by the Center for Weight Loss Success. It's a store right there. You can check your body comp. Log into the membership portal. You should be receiving the health tips and weekly recipes. Tune in each Tuesday, 12:15 for the next webinar. Watch your email for the invite and link. And remember, it's your life. Make it a healthy one. Have a good day, everyone. Take care.